connect the words to the.
Yeah, I wonder how they do the footnotes with the audio.
So I part of it. And there's multiple voices, like 4 people doing the audio book.
Oh, yeah.
There's one main narrator who's a woman. A woman narrates most of the book. And then like Simon J. Kraft is his own voice.
Right.
Sanger is his own voice.
Oh wow.
And
The girl she
Gunny Puddle.
Thank you. The first she said
The
was
Gunny Puddles, whatever. That
that
dude is his own voice too, interestingly.
Oh wow.
But everybody else is, I guess maybe somebody. No, she did Sunset Harker's voice too. So yeah, it was. I mean, it was interesting. The footnotes.
I love them.
They are read.
They are.
Are
They
okay.
are. I believe. I
They
think.
are
I'm
read.
pretty sure they are read.
Yes, they are.
Because I did go back and look, and I didn't admit, like, even just now, I went to go back and look at a couple of the footnotes. I was like, I did hear this in the part that I was listening to.
You know, I think he did a good point of driving, of doing a message without doing the message. Because me, I didn't know this was about prison. I did see it at, they had the guy who did The Sun Does Shine was over at New York Avenue, talking about prison reform. This book was there. I didn't realize this was, so I went into it blind, like not knowing what it's about. And then when the little footnotes and all that, I'm like, okay, I think it's clever. It's almost making it science fiction for that person who creeped to.
Yeah.
The person who will read this book is a person who loves graphic novels. Those ones is 100-page series that you don't know what the hell going on.
So
That's what
much
this
more
is.
excited with pictures.
This is interesting. Like this was I'm surprised that you don't
I'm not saying I don't like it.
right.
I'm just saying that it left a lot to be desired for me.
So I think yes. So my 2 complaints is one, I feel like the use of contemporary slang made it hard for me to really see this as something happening like in a far off dystopian future, right? Where basically America kind of fell off and like all these different states, because it was like New Florida, like he created these new places that only really come about in like a Hunger Games type of situation where America is kind of fractured and is trying to pull itself back together. But he's using like, what did someone say, like no cap or something like that?
Yeah,
I was like,
where it's at.
yeah, I was like, oh come on, dude, I need you not to, like.
Right.
So that was, but that's a little just thing. It does bother me that he left it how it is. I'm mad, but I'm not mad.
Yeah, no, listen,
I got like 20 pages.
when you walked in, I was like, I'm sure you finished this
I was
book.
supposed to
We
be
all
out there
finished
working
it.
and it happened.
Yeah.
I got like 20 pages left.
So I'm mad, but I'm not mad. Because I think there is like, so he left it as no, you create the story of what comes next, right? So I think part of the conversation, I think there is a story. I think there are a number of short stories or novellas he can do from this. I don't know if there's other full-length novels, maybe, but I think him doing them as these individual strands to create this of different novellas of this mythology around this book is fantastic. Because I think to further have that conversation about how people have been idolizing and like fantasizing about these murderers, right? These people who are killing people. It's okay for them to be beside me in the farmer's market when you got this gadget in your wrist that can stop you from moving, right? I don't fear you. But when that quote unquote leash is taken off of you, and I know how violent, how dangerous you are, do I really want to be beside you at that point? So when she is free, right? Like, where does she really go? Yes, it's
Sports commentator.
Right. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But at that point, it just becomes just like, how does she get out? She doesn't, right? And then she's still dealing with her own guilt of having murdered, her girlfriend. Like, so I think there's a lot there. I'm not mad that he did not. I think there's opportunities. So I get why he did not do it, because there's just so much, right? Then you'll be mad because we 500 pages.
But I would have yes and no. But I mean, I was already committed by that point to get to the end of it. Like, I wanted to know how it ended because there was so much going on that I'm like, listen, I need to see how this gets. It was like, I want to see how this gets wrapped up. Honestly, that's where I wanted to see how it was going to be pulled all together.
You know, the husband and wife.
And it did. Like, I want to know what happened to them. They just saw, they just saw two of the greats, go head to head in a rule change, like a week after. You know, they just killed these two people that they made us read all about, listen to Buddy Sing and all this other stuff. Yeah. So it's like, this is a huge change. What happened to all the people on the Reddit threads that are sitting here going through all this stuff?
I want to know what happened because
what happened to the world?
You know what happens in the world?
That dude is cheating,
You know how people watch a whole.
He's cheating. I want to know what's happening because he was cheating.
Who was cheating?
The guy and Emily, because the last letter that they read was him writing into Thurwar, and he was like, picture attached, he, right? Because there's like this little running joke of these guys, and even like one woman sitting in these nudes to Thurwar, and then he was like, hey, see this picture, he, or whatever. And then when his wife, I think that was assault, right? But you know, it's a guy, so yeah, thank you, because I didn't want to be the guy to say it. But when she said she hugged him, she was like, "Oh, he smells like a perfume that I've never smelled before."
Yes.
He did say that.
Yeah. So I'm like, so I want to see like just a house.
You're right. She sure did. She said he smelled like it's a perfume.
Yeah, and then she just kept going. But right, that was never addressed.
What if she is the next part of the link?
Because she's going to kill him, and now she's the
Now she's the link.
But we don't know.
But
That's what I'm saying. If these were
But you know how people would really be invested in saying the Real Housewives of Atlanta, let's say hypothetically, or any of those shows. When it ends, guess what? We move on to the next Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You see what I'm saying? So these are big stars, and whatever, they love them. But when the next group come along, they right on it.
Yeah, and what happens to this
You
link?
see
What happens to their chain, right? Like no, but I'm saying, like, now who's the leader? So Thurwar is presumably free. I don't even know how quickly you get free since it ain't never happened. So how quickly do you even get let go? Like, do they just walk out after you just walk out after? But so now the rest of them are sitting here. They seem like a pretty vagabond bunch of people. Gunny Puddle's about to murder everybody.
Yes, that's what's about to happen.
He needs his own spin-off.
That's what's about to happen.
Gunny needs a little spin-off there, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm curious. There's so much left unanswered, and that's fine. Like, look, that happens all the time, right? Books don't answer questions, but because there's so much on the table that got pulled into it, I want to know something more than Loretta is the lone victor or is the victor at the end. And frankly, I'm surprised she didn't do what Staxxx did. Like, I'm kind of surprised she didn't just get herself killed in the other way.
Decision that Thurwar would kill? Did they make the decision, or did they just
No, they were fighting. You know what? Staxxx basically forced her to fight.
Yeah.
They should have jumped. They were standing on the ledge or something. They should have just taken
like leaning over the edge. Yeah, just like.
And then Staxxx is on this whole BS, like,
they
self-righteous nonsense.
The part I'm at is where they're saying, I was thinking they was making a decision to say that we're not gonna kill each other.
I thought so too.
That's what it felt like. I'm on like maybe 3 more chapters to the end, and at that part, that's what she tells.
Staxxx was like, somebody gotta go.
Yeah.
She's like, somebody got to die.
Yeah.
You go where I go.
Yeah.
For the system, for the pride, for the people, for whatever. Like, she was really on some, like, we have to do this.
I think he deals with the complexity of the prison system. Like, now, remember the girl who was protesting, her daddy was the one who was killed. Like, she was like, I don't want him out.
Right.
At the same time. So I think on that part, he really, like, her explanation, how she was explaining it, it's complex because, like she's saying, locking people up is not deterring crime. But then what do you do when somebody is raping children or what is the answer? And I think it has to be something besides prison as we know it, because all it's doing is just making us have to pay for a lot of people tax money.
I forget when she did that interview. The point that she made, I thought that, and the way that they played that he wrote that interview was frustrating, but also fair, in that the person on the other end of that conversation isn't really trying to have, they're so emotionally stuck on a certain outcome that they can't hear anything else. Because she openly said, look, I'm not saying we have an answer, and I'm not saying that that it's necessarily right. Like, I really do apologize. But what is currently happening is not the answer. And that's the big thing, is that what we're seeing now are these people, the board is profiting, right? This guy is labeling people and not in the process, and he's not trying to rehabilitate people. He's profiting off of it. He's labeling you as a murderer, putting a big M on your back, right? And disassociating you from your humanity. And I think what the part I really did, I really liked about this book was the complexity of humanizing someone who committed some very egregious acts.
He did a great job.
Right? Like, they're going through this, they're suffering, they're dealing with all this stuff, but yet they're like
People.
terrible, they've done terrible things, but there are still people that should not have to do this thing, right? And like, so that's the thing that you have to wrestle with.
It's a hard balance. She did that interview. I was like, it leads you down because it really ain't an easy answer to any of this. Like, I don't believe in prison. I don't think it's humane to have humans locked in cages. But then what do you do with people who are, even in schools, are having the same issues, because you have these kids who are out of control. You don't want schools to be like prisons where you're locking them up in a room all day, but then what do you do? Like, it's so complex. So what do you do?
I mean, people really just need resources. Medical resources.
They do.
Resources. People are not willing to invest to help everyone. If you make sure everybody's good, everybody's gonna be good, But the thing is, some people don't be good, and they're just kind of left to deal with that on their own, and other people have more resources.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm excited to see if he does come out with the second book, a follow-up of life after, right? Because she got out, and now she's dealing with the stuff of what we know today. Like, is she going to have a job? You know what I'm saying? Is she going to be able to navigate in life as a person, right? Not just as this person who is basically like a gladiator warrior and killed a lot of people on a televised screen that they can play back at any time.
I don't think she makes it. I personally don't think she's long for the world once she gets out. That's why I'm surprised that she didn't choose to basically let herself die, because, like, what am I going out to the world? So I've already done this thing that I can't forgive myself for, right? Then, in order to get quote unquote high freed, I had to kill 36 people in order to do that. So I not only am I the one that I can't get over, the ones that I had to do to survive because I chose to be in this program, like, I have literally removed people from the planet.
Yes.
No matter what the circumstances.
And
then the last person was the love of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think she's long for the planet. Like, I just really don't. Like, mentally,
PTSD
this is why, so you're right. There's a potential book just about what happens to her when she gets out. I think it would be a short book. But what happens to her when she gets out? Does you get freed from being this famous person? Do they set you up somewhere? Do you just get released out into the world? Like, what is all that stuff? So I listened to a bunch of his podcasts because I've been having various conversations, not podcast episodes that he's on, because I've been having various conversations with people about this book. Some people I know love it. Some people hate it. It's run the range. White people absolutely love this book.
Oh, God.
They absolutely love it. Some of the black people I talk to are very much like, I think it's ambitious.
Okay.
It's an ambitious book. I don't know if it stuck the landing. I don't know exactly where I am on that, but I wanted to hear what he had to say about it. Like, I'm like, maybe that will help me decide how I feel. Yeah, maybe it'll help me. But just like most things, when people discussing their books, it's way more interesting than a lot of books are. You know what I mean? Like, it happens all the time. People tell you about their book. You're like, man, I really need to read that. And then you're like, God damn, this is the hardest 10 pages of ever. But, so he talked a lot about how he wrote this book trying to figure out if he believed in abolition, if he was an abolitionist. Like, he believed in prison abolition. he discovered that he is. But he was like, I was trying to figure out if that's where I see myself. Like, do I see myself? He said, ultimately, I do. And this character has kind of helped him see that. But I'm also of the mind frame, like, I don't know what else to do. Some people are just bad. Resources ain't going to help. Like, I got family. They're just bad. They just in.
But that's the question too in the book. Are people inherently bad? Are people good? Are people?
They make choices.
I think you are your decisions.
Yeah,
and I think like sometimes you get caught up in making a whole chain of bad decisions.
Yeah.
And then it's
But the
it's
thing
hard
about it
to
though,
undo
all
that.
types of people make bad decisions, but certain people have to deal with their decisions in a particular magnitude. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's the misconception that we get into when we get to these binaries. Like, everybody do fucked up shit. White, black, everybody. But certain people got people that's gonna get them out of it quick. Certain people got people that can't help them pay no bond at all. So it really depends on where you are in the chain of your resources.
You're right.
Where you gonna end up.
Yeah.
But I think that's still a different point on what Panama.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying is right. I just think what that means is the people with resources belong in prison too. So we got the prisons actually should be full of more people than they are. You know what I mean? It's as opposed to that. If a lot of bad people get away with things because of their station in life, perhaps the prison should double in size and they should be more racially.
But that's not what's talking about. Though. The only thing we talk about is who's there. Like we don't talk about the other people should be there too.
True.
It's like,
like we threw that in about Cynthia, the little girl who killed her husband. And then that statistic at the bottom that said most women who are in prison have been molested or some type of way. So to me, like you said, that is a flaw in society.
Yeah.
When we're allowing so many girls to be victimized, what is causing these men or whoever to victimize these girls? Like something is going on to cause this, and then when you work with children, you seeing that play out, and it starts young, and you know it's where it's leading to. And like you said, you need resources, but it feels like it's impossible to stop that train. If that makes sense.
But there's also, so what I was getting from what Panama was saying is that we also have to recognize that there are some people who do not value life.
Absolutely.
Right? So those people, like, what do you do with, I firmly believe in rehabilitation, right? I think there is a place, people make bad decisions. Every bad decision should not necessarily result in prison, right? And people who are, whether it's based on resources, whether it's based on ignorance, a bad emotional outburst this one moment, there should be a process where they can go through and do the rehabilitation, make restitution, right? And then work their way, they can still have a productive life, right? I think there's a big middle ground for that. But it's the people who, we lump those people with that small minority of people who just don't value life, right? Like Gunny Puddles, he was saying, I am who I am.
Yeah.
He represented that other part.
Right.
I was gonna say that too.
I don't look, this is who I am. You step in front of me, I might not get you now, but that one moment you're not paying attention, I got you, right? So those people are the ones, like, what do you do with those people and figure out how do you separate those people from society versus the bulk, what I believe, and it could be just my naivete, most people that get stuck in the resource, a bad emotional outburst, they made a bad decision this time, and they're still good people who are connected to their humanity versus people who just don't see any value in other people, right? They just think that's how everyone is paid.
That's why this is a struggle. This is why prison reform, like,
It's tough.
everybody, I sympathize and empathize and understand, especially as a black person in America, which means I have family who's cycled in and out of the prison system. I remember telling when I had to do my security clearance at work, and the woman asked me, do you or have you had any family members who've been in prison? I was like, this question is culturally biased. I am Black. I probably have family in prison right now, and I just don't know because we're not close. But if you run my background and trace everybody I know, I guarantee somebody's in prison. Like, that's the way the system works. But I don't know what the solution is either. And I as much as I read, as much as things like this are kind of like the worst case scenario for what prison could be, I can't envision what the other side of that is either. Because I do think it's messed up to remove people from society in a way that doesn't actually, that basically makes you a worse criminal, right? It puts you in a space where your baser instincts have to take over for survival and all this. At least, you know, if everything that I've seen about prison is true. But, you know, it's like, I don't know what the other side of that is. People say resources and provide people rehab, but like, what does that even look like? Like, what is the end on that? Like, how does it look to be rehabbed from murder? You know, like, what does that look like for, and I do agree that we do create, once you are labeled a criminal, we turn you into a criminal, not a person, right?
Yeah.
You walk into the door as criminal, not whatever your name is, not whatever, but I also don't know. Like, I genuinely have wrestled with that over just life, right?
I thought about it, I'm like, this is a hard. It's and it starts young. Like the whole prison stuff is starting younger because kids are acting out more. I ain't gonna say more. It may always be happening, but it feels like it's more intense. What do you do? What do you do? And you don't want to lock people up, but then they're danger to the whole community.
I feel like what Derek was saying too is like part of this book. To me, it kind of felt like a warning system of we really need to reevaluate what we're doing with prison systems, because if not, in about 10, 15 years, we're going to be seeing what's the name he had? It was like clearly Verizon Wireless or something like that for one of the companies, and they have like their huge logo on the plate, and she's like walking out. I'm like, oh crap! I was like, oh, that was.
So I thought that was very hilariously sarcastic and satirical.
Oh yeah.
But so, and you know, like when I listened to one of the discussions he was having, you know, they were asking like, you know, when did you envision this? Because it's not clear based on the writing,
right,
if this is far, and like it seems near enough.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, this could be 10, 15, 20 years down the line, whatever. And here's the thing, I don't think we'll ever get there, to be fair. I don't think America has the stomach to watch murder on screen like that. Because I would be willing to bet money something like this has been pitched several times. I would be willing to bet that this is on the table in somebody's locked file somewhere. The idea for, listen, they're criminals, like, let them earn it. You know, like I don't know if the specifics like this very, you know, he put a lot of thought to creating this very specific system, but something along those lines. I can imagine we got movies about this kind of stuff, like the blood sports and all. Like, we got movies about this, right? Right. So
also on the other side of that, I think he was also trying to say and just try to heighten what's already happening. Like, you know, these are already experiences people are having when your loved one is gone and you feel like you never met. Like, a lot of the experiences kind of don't change. You know, you feel like you always needed your dad, you never knew him, but he belonged to you, but you didn't have that relationship. That's something whether the TV is there or not. And I think he was just trying to, like, create a bigger picture, but show that it's already happening in a certain type of scope.
And it's already happened too. Think about it. We had gladiators in the Roman Empire. That was a real thing.
Or even like the stories, the people were real stories. That was like real stuff that had happened, you know, and like.
Yeah, when he threw that stuff in, and then he was telling the real story.
Yeah, that really happened to people.
Girls,
Really got put away
rape,
that.
kill, they rape and go to jail. I mean, he was.
Again, the footnotes were chef kiss.
Or even like I think that what he was trying to show about the identity of the characters. Black people be locked up. Black people are locked up. Like, that's nothing far-fetched. That's like what's happening. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like a lot of the things really were like our current realities. Like,
and the relationships formed, right? We were talking about the links or the chain gangs, right? Like, these people really didn't know each other from squat, but because of their situation, they have, I don't want to say love, but a caring, a care towards them. I don't even want to say empathy. Well, maybe it is empathy, right? Because they're kind of in the same boat as well, you know.
I think he did a great job of humanizing these people. They were good job at it, and then he humanized it. So it's like, I think we got to humanize the whole situation. If you really want, if you think you're an abolished person, believe in abolished, you got to make them human again. And some of the people here were just crazy, but some people like just not justified, but you can see why they did what they did.
Like the
So I'm thinking like now, why couldn't we in our country? I know it's deep as fuck, but we would still be in jail. What if we could say, okay, I don't know, like, you know, what if we can classify?
I think it flies against our belief of who we are as a country. Like there's a, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying
There's always something there.
This moral imperative that America seems to believe it has against this type of thing. Like I think people would watch it. I think people would pretend that they're not watching it and all the other stuff. But it's kind of like this the uber conservative, like, oh no, no sex and stuff like that, no all this other stuff. Like we got to keep condoms and things out of school. But it's like you're just putting your head in the sand, right? It's happening all around you and all this other stuff. But that also gets the humanization part. So maybe that's why I think the love story between Staxxx and Thurwar mattered. Because that's also why I can see it as a movie. Because if this is a movie, that has to be the center of the story, right? You got to create a love story between two people to keep you invested in the rest of it. Because ultimately, you need to know, are they going to make it, right? And that's why I was surprised that I didn't care. Like, if I didn't care if either one of them made it by the time I got there. I really didn't. Like,
I'm not invested in either one of them making it either. Like, I got like 3 chapters to go. Because there's no happy ending. Like, if she, like y'all said, she made it.
I think
There's
that's
no
why
happy
it
ending
gets
for
to
her.
like,
So neither one of them. I was hoping they just went on and killed each other. Just go on and y'all go there, just kill each other.
Yeah, like it just
call
sucks.
it
Period. Like
it's no happy
you
ending.
see where it's going. We know they didn't even telegraph it. They told us. So they both know that they're heading to this direction and that they're gonna have to deal with this sooner or later. Because it's crazy. This book really is like lasts over a 2-week period, right? Like the whole book is effectively, like 2 weeks. Yeah, and it's like, they know that they're getting there, and they know this is about to happen. And it's like, all right, so for me, I'm just like, well, somebody's got to go. But then he presented me the third option where they could have just jumped off the ledge, and I'm like, oh, do that. Now we're talking, because now that forces the people who stand to make money to lose money. Now there's a whole different set of issues,
That's what I thought was
right?
gonna happen though. They were gonna like switch it and gain control for real. Like when they start fighting at the end, I'm like,
That one of the pages left. That one of the pages left for me. I'm like, you know
I
what?
thought they were gonna stand there. I thought they were just gonna look at each
That's
other.
what I wanted.
I thought it was gonna be a cliffhanger.
I'm at the part now where I want to believe they decided we gonna kill each other.
Yeah, they got to go on that.
So there would have been more for me if it ended with Staxxx and Thurwar threw down their weapons and stood there and were like, shot. But then they probably would have sent somebody else in there to kill them. Like, here's your shot. We're gonna run you up the Grand Colossal. Right? If you can take them out, we'll like jump you 10 slots or whatever.
But that first chapter was like foreshadowing, when you think about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Because the way that Thurwar tipped out Melancholia or whatever her name was, like
Bishop. Yeah.
like we wouldn't have a full story like now. How Melancholia got in what she needed to do and got the F out of there. The story might have been her story and the post games whatever kind of story that we were gonna get, but instead it was not. So I kind of felt like, it brought us full circle at the end. I would have liked for them to jump off, but now I'm more excited.
I can't do a Thelma and Louise moment. I really can't.
But that makes so much more sense, and it creates so many more problems for the rest of the world, because it's like everybody that's invested got exactly what they wanted. The two great fighters fight at the end and somebody dies. So they still got exactly what they were looking for. If they're not there to fight because they have chosen to kill themselves because they don't want to be part of the system, all of a sudden it's like it changed the entire conversation, because we know that happens all the time. Now the sports, is this too much? These two people that loved each other decided they would rather die together than be forced to kill. Like all of a sudden, a conversation happens that's probably more effective than Thurwar doing, being freed, being the one to get free, and Staxxx, people love. Like they love them both, right? Like I'm just saying, I would have been happy if the book ended with them jumping off the ledge.
Jumping off the ledge saying they're not gonna fight.
Huh?
Jumping off the ledge or saying we're not gonna fight.
Yeah, more of a protest. That's what I was expecting.
Cause they had enough people outside. I love
Yeah, like it was like something was about to
And
happen
that
and
dude
it
was
never
like, I'm
happened.
going with them.
Yeah, I would have rather. I mean, although it would have seemed a little bit far fetched for the young lady Mari, whatever she was doing to have had a bigger impact somehow, like what she was going to do, or
Yeah.
if there was
Yeah,
something
she
there,
Yeah.
I would have felt cheated if they had jumped. I don't feel cheated that they fought each other. But yeah, I could see a different ending to it. So I get what you're saying. I would have felt cheated if they had jumped off the.
Even 10 seconds later would have helped. What did Thurwar feel after she realized she just killed her? Like, it ends with her standing there.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like the last 5 lines are basically like, you know, Love God gets dropped as it's too late to stop Haas Omaha from whatever. It's too late. She basically kills her, and then Thurwar is the last one standing. Like, she just killed the love of her life that she didn't want to, by the way. She didn't want. If Staxxx had said, let's jump, they would have jumped. It would have been a wrap. But because she was. So, what happens then? Like, what is her face? Is she standing there putting her fist in the air?
Yeah.
Probably not. Like,
Right.
if this is a movie, does it end with
It's blacked out.
It blacks
so
out.
it blacks out, and that leads. But you know what? We would have seen the pain that she would have gone through. Like, we would have seen something, right? Like, but as far as it ends. She kills her, and
But
now
maybe he wanted
But
us
she
to be
killed a lot of
creative
people.
and what we could see happening.
So that's what I was saying.
Characters in
I think
reality.
I think he's definitely leaving. He's saying here, like, you
Yeah,
now
yeah,
have
yeah.
to deal with this, right? That's exactly what he's saying. You have to deal
could
with
be.
this. I think there is, I think there's probably some publishers thinking of the Star Wars or Star Trek model where you hire other writers to fill out the mythology. So it doesn't have to be on him.
Yeah.
Other people are writing short stories or fan fiction about it to fill out the rest of it, which I think would be a great thing to do. So it's not necessarily on him. He's
Everybody
established
has ideas about
this world, right, and then other people can run with it, which I think which would continue the conversation, which I think needs to happen. But also, for me, I am, like, most people that I loved in the story are gone. Like, Rico Murche is cool, but at this point, there isn't. The only other person that may reach the colossal status is Raven, right? He was the one that killed Randy Mack. Right? So at this point, you just had she's going to go, she's leaving, but she probably won't commit suicide. She's not going to make it. Staxxx is gone. The other colossal, which I didn't realize he had gotten to that point, but Singer is gone. So, the thing is that most people don't ever get to this level, right? So for them, most people.
And that was a gag too, though, that everybody keeps getting stopped.
Right.
Like nobody completes the program.
Right.
And then the rules keep changing. Like they keep changing the rules.
They
It is.
change the goalposts,
Change
which
the
is
goalposts.
They created a system that it's a delayed death sentence, is what it is, right?
I don't know how they do
I
it.
actually think it's kind of like a sped up death sentence. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
here had a 25-year sentence. Like,
Right,
this
they
is,
could've just
this
sat
is
for
right. This is a
25
3-year program.
Well,
Like,
versus just going to the
or
chair.
2 weeks, depending on who you are. This
I mean, but the other option, if you just want to execute them, they're dead. Versus a potentially 3-year extension.
how long people sit on death row? Forever. People
And
never.
I love when
people
he said it about
never-
solitary confinement. Like people
Yeah.
sitting on death row in solitary confinement. What? How barbaric is that? So even if you ain't crazy, you're gonna be crazy when you come out, even if it's just a year.
That's real.
You
And
said
that's
the worst
real.
part is
Who
the
knows
hour
that?
you get out, because now you've been out and now I got to go back
Go
into the state.
back. And for me, I was like, I don't want my hour.
Yeah.
Don't get
Going
my
back to
hour.
what you just said about, let's say people picking up the baton and running with these different things. There's so much more to run with if they jump. If they jump, everybody has to deal with it, right? The couple that is watching them and has gotten invested, now they've lost the two people that they've been following the most are dead, right? The guy who runs the company, he has to figure it out. Like all the sport, like the cultural aspect of it. There's so many people that literally have to figure out what does this mean? Now what?
So here's the thing.
And you can't just move on. You can't just move on to the next person who's gonna move up the ranks. I don't think.
I'm with you. I agree. However, I am a huge cynic about people, especially the people who claim to be the most righteous, the most conservative. Those are the people who I could see this existing because their whole thing is to detach a person's humanity from this asset. Like that's what America's been built on. Right? This asset does not have any humanity. And if it gives me some additional voting rights, we'll call you 3/5 a person. Like that's the best I'm willing to give you. But so I could easily see it happening. So I could see that couple having a conversation like, well, why do they jump? Ain't none of them going to think because, oh, maybe this is inhumane.
Yeah.
Maybe because they love each other, they're not going to be.
But
he's an idiot.
You can write 50 pages about the argument that they have about why they jumped. Yeah. And some part of that conversation that they had, it was like, I mean, maybe they got pushed too far. Maybe the idea of forcing them, this change in the rules to require them to do it was a step too far. And then if you can argue, if you can recognize that something is a step too far, you can take a look at other aspects of it and say, I mean, maybe this is not a good part of it either. You can do that. I'm not saying it's naturally going to happen, but I'm saying over the course of a conversation, all of that stuff is going to be put on the table.
You remember how they said slaves would try to run away? They said they came up with disease for it.
Yeah.
Trying to run away is a disease. They're trying to run away.
Drapetomania.
So it'd be the same thing with them. They jumped off because they were crazy. It'll be something with them, not the society.
Yeah, but that's what would happen that is what would happen at the high level, right? I do think that because everybody is invested, there's Reddit threads, there's it's an entire universe and ecosystem of stuff. I think you end up having somebody asking the question, is this too far? Like, is the rule change too far? And then you know what you get out of that? This is my writer hat. A history of rule changes in the 32 seasons up to this one for whatever. Oh, it changed from here to here. Oh, it looks like they're trying to make sure they kill each other. They're trying to make sure that you would get that kind of journalism and all that stuff.
They were trying to say that they want people to still get that from the ending. Like the fact that one lover had to be killed by the other lover. Like I think they were trying to still say like, y'all, like that's crazy, right? You know, like still trying to insinuate people to be upset by that, you know.
So the only reason I disagree with that, well, not disagree. The only reason I think that it was still Hurricane had her relationship with Thurwar, but she was also had a relationship with Randy back, right? So you can make the whole, well, maybe Thurwar was still a little jealous of that. Or, like you can find a way to justify why she was able to complete the task, right? Like you can find it. Because what's the interview like after? I didn't even want to do this. I didn't want to. That's what I'm saying. Like what happens after? Like what happens in the post game where she's talking about they're obviously going to ask, you're the first one to get free. How do you feel? I just had to kill the love of my life. I didn't even want to do this. She made me do it. Like all of a sudden, it's like, what do you mean she made you do it? You knew what you signed up for. This was the thing. All of a sudden, it's like you people don't realize what you're doing. Like there's a lot there. I'm just saying. I think if you want to say I'm teaching a class and this is the book that I'm using, and this seems like a genuinely good thing to use to get perspective. So you take the dean dude that owns the company. You take the rest. You take somebody. You take Gunny Puddles on the chain. You take Mickey Wright. You take such and such. Like I want all these people's perspective once they're gone. Like I will. I mean, and it does work even with the way it ends right now. Like I want it. What happens next? Yeah. But do it from the perspective of all these people. Like that would be actually really interesting thought exercise in like a creative writing class, or even a psychology class, or prison reform class. I don't know, like a criminal justice class, right? Like you could really jump into all those things.
I think the main thing for me, like y'all saying that she gonna get free. I haven't gotten there yet, but so that begs the question, even in this country now, what happens when you're free? You have to be like, oh, blah 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 got released after 30 some years, like the guy who did The Sun Does Shine. If Brian Stevenson had stepped in, took him under his wing and all his people, and basically gave him a life when he got out, what would he be doing now? 30 years innocent on death row. what would he be doing now if Brian Stevenson had scooped him up? You see what I'm saying? He would probably be dead because
we have
how you gonna
those.
make a living?
We have. I mean, the thing is that we don't care
We don't.
because we have people right now
We don't care.
that are dealing, and they're coming out after being found innocent. Who was that black man that just they finally did that DNA test or whatever?
Yeah.
And he was like locked up for like 30 years or something like that.
Awful, that poor old man.
Yeah,
One guy just got $300,000. The same thing. I'm like, what the hell are you gonna do with $300,000 when you can't ever get a job and you ain't but 50? You got to live to 100. What's $100,000 gonna do?
Yeah, it's like, and so again, I don't know. It's just my
It's a messed up system.
there's a lack of faith. I have a lack of faith and people are too apathetic, and until it impacts them, they have no care, right? And that's and part of the same thing is, I mean, as is happening is that it's like he's like Gunny Puddle said. So black people, he said, what did he say? Oh my God, he was like, oh my God, how did he say it? It's like something. History is like, I'm a historian, right? And basically, black folk might have a history of whining. I forgot how he said it. Basically, what his father has taught him about black people and how they've been disassociated from this thing is what media is dealing with now, right? It's what we're dealing with in media now is the propaganda. So until no one cared about Trayvon Martin, right? But when you're forced to watch George Floyd on TV because you ain't got nothing else to do, you can't go buy the new PS5, or you can't go on a vacation somewhere or go to dinner. Like that's when it now bothers you because now you're confronted with it face to face. You can't forget about it because you have all your other things to do. So that's the thing that just like I appreciate this book and I understand why it's getting the recognition that it is in terms of rewards, because it does. It makes you think, right? And it does say, okay, you have to question and talk about the issue that we are confronted with when it comes to our criminal justice system. But there's, like who said it? Like, oh, white folks are just loving the book. Of course they're loving it because it's a thought exercise. It's a thought exercise for them. Like, oh, blah 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 blah, and then they off.
And then they can have these intellectual conversations.
And that's why it's harder for you because you're like, man.
The podcasts I listen to are all full of white people, very intellectually discussing the significance of the things in the book. But it's always fun to hear stuff because I'm like, you are. Now, what I'm gonna say is gonna be super controversial, so just forgive me in advance. But like, I get the impression that even he is like a first gen here. So a lot of stuff we're talking about is very Black American problem, like remnants of slavery type of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a certain distance that white people have from it, where they look at something, well, they are just criminals. Where I think even some foreigners have about that same thing when looking at what happens. Like, well, I mean, it's criminals.
And black people too.
We do. No, we do, but we also all have somebody in there at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it's.
But it's almost like they said in the story that one girl said, "My family's out visiting me, and they gone." A lot of us disassociate from our family who was in prison. Yeah. We ain't dealing with them no more. They the secret.
Right.
They are the family.
But you know what? But you know they're there, and I think so that willful ignorance versus, well, why are y'all like that? is the difference that I'm kind of speaking to, and I think for white people who don't really have much experience with the criminal justice system, this stuff is fascinating. It's like watching Oz, right? You look at these like, geez, like what is that stuff that's happening there? That's crazy. And I'm not trying to say that they all don't have any perception of what's going on. I'm sure some people obviously have relationships with it. There are definitely lots of white people in jail, but disproportionately, so it's like.
I think for me, I remember my journey of reading all. I think it might have been Michelle Alexander. to do Jim Crow. May have been my first book I read, I think. Can't remember. I just on go, but that is a reference point. When I started talking about the prison system. So for me, I was so shocked with myself and how it was just normal. That prisons and all that. So when I started reading more books about this stuff, I'm like, it was so ingrained in the culture, we weren't even thinking about it. So for my thing, I'm thinking hopefully books like this for people who have no recollection, no dealing with this, it can start opening up your brain to think about it. Because I know I was not thinking, it was just what it was. I didn't think it was good or bad. It's just prison, that's what we do. But the books and the reading started making me think, why am I okay with this? Why am I seeing it? So hopefully books like this
But I think
have
also
people to see that this is not normal to have. Like one of the statistics, we mass incarcerate more than any other. What the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? And then like now, it ain't like it's like white folks ain't in prison. They in prison too. So it's like, we really, something wrong with society when you got this many folks freaking locked up.
I think it's ingrained in our society.
It's a part of the culture.
And even like the good, and they talk about this in the books, the good and bad binary. That binary is really fucking us up from schooling to everything else, because you want to be good. You want to be good, and anybody who's not good is bad. And you know, once you get into the bad category, that is why they can get away with doing certain things. You know, and that's what they're trying to allude to in the story. Like once you get in a certain category, anything kind of goes. Because when it's bad category, it's like, how do we get there? How do we get? Is there a gray area between good and bad? Like, you know, we got the Michelle Obama, then we got the, you know, it's like, how do we get everybody on one like cohesive plan? Like, because you want to be good and you don't want to be bad, and that's how they're, you know, that's how the divide is happening. That's how we're forgetting about our people, because we want to be good so bad. Even people that's bad don't want to be bad, they want to be associated with it, and that's been ingrained in us. That's our society.
One of those books we read, remember y'all with the book? She talked about like when you see the girl, kind of what we call ghetto, how we label that as bad and good. What's one of those?
Right or die?
I thought it was Ride or Die.
It might have
Remember,
been.
she talked about the idea that we were like, you know, and like she said, we're so big on you dress naked and you're bad. You are more conservative dressed, you're a good person.
Right, yeah.
So this girl with her butt out, man, she could be raped.
Yeah.
Compared to you with that long
And her, and she could go to jail, and she could be robbed, and she could have violence committed against her. All of these things. It's not even that. It's just so many things that can happen.
And I'm finding out the hard way, y'all. It's a hard reality. There are people who are black, tons of them, who got bad thoughts when it comes to black women. Like I didn't realize how that's so ingrained that like we are like bad people. Period. So it's like I'm trying to explain to guys, how many girls did you say hello to and they cuss you out? There haven't been many. You know your mama, your grandmama, and all them. But there's this perception that people think that we're just like these bad, freaking people. That I didn't realize ran so deep in the culture. And now it's over. And they think like Michelle Obama is exceptional.
Yeah.
But then the rest of us, y'all
But then that's
like, where the hell that came from?
because when you put someone on such high pedestal, the fall is harder, right? And everyone is human. Humans are
Yes.
bound to make mistakes, right? So we put her on this pedestal. She makes a mistake. Now they're saying everything and dragging her through the dirt, putting her way down. When it was like, okay, she made an honest human mistake that maybe, this is just hypothetical, right? She made an honest human mistake that a lot of people have made too, but because she's in the forefront, because of how you put her up there, right, with that pressure of being that perfect, talented, kind of person, well, now you left no room for her to grow, to change, to evolve at all, to just be human. You taken that away from her. So,
Like this.
That's the problem with black exceptionalism.
It is
That's
very
locations.
It is funny. Like this guy at work. Well, I know he's live. Anyway, he said. Anyway, his raised in Arlington, black. His mama is all the way black. But he got problems with black women. Like what is?
But I don't think people got problems with their mamas too. Like when you got problems with black women, you got problems.
I'm just saying, it's like
yeah, what's going on?
then it goes.
It started
It's
before
complex.
it's a bigger conversation. So that's again why, and I want to speak to him a little bit more, or I guess listen to his podcast, because this is a
You got a podcast?
No, so I listened to, when this book came out, there were a ton of interviews with him
Can we
that
get
are
him
all
here, y'all? Can we
that
get him
are
here?
all.
I'm just curious because he used this story to center a black woman, right? Which is interesting because when we talk about prison reform, especially, we focus on black men, which is true because there are a lot of black men who are in the prison system, right, with black women. But when we think about that, it's all the conversation surrounded around black men, not so much black women.
I like
But
what
he
you
chose
did
to put a black woman at the center, and not only that, like I said before, put her a queer black woman, right?
It's funny, none of the white people that I listen to interview him asked him about that. They're serious. Like I listened to, and I'm not gonna say I got to the end of every single episode. I listened to 3, so maybe that's not a representative sample, but it's surprising that nobody ever asked, like, why did you put a black woman?
Yeah.
Nobody asked why there's a black person. It was. I mean, I think it's easy to envision a black person being the center of a chain gang.
But why specifically as a black male did he make it?
Right, so black woman that's queer on top of it.
I mean, I think there are a lot of interesting things being said about the way black women support and are there for incarcerated people, including being incarcerated. But if we're not, we're there supporting our son, our lover, our uncle. The black woman, that's a black woman's role. It is. You know, you don't hear about your uncle calling you. No, it's your friends, your girls, your auntie. You'll look. You know, that's really there to support you. And I feel like there's a way, and I think a solid autobiography talks about that black women are interacting with this system in different ways, either are us being, you know, in jail, or us supporting someone that's in jail, or being there for someone, or, you know, there's a lot of ways that we still in it, even though we're not directly impacted, we still in it, you know.
What I did notice too is a lot of the people that he admires in this space are women. Like that's one thing I did notice. Like when they were asking him about like who are the people that you're reading that inspire you about, you know, when they're writing, they were largely women. Even in the acknowledgments of this book, like several of the people that he's talking about are black women. So maybe he's trying to provide voice for the voices, maybe in some way.
And I mean, that's what we organized in the Black Men's Party. That's what really, you know, the black women. But when you first hear about it, you don't even know that. You know, now you learn about how much black women were supporting that party, and like, you like, whoa, that's something that's never really talked about. Because black women, we have a certain role, you know. We aren't looked at a certain way, you know. So if you really get into it, though, black women are like affected in so many different ways.
All that
Supporting,
not just having
caring.
censor. Because like she said, whether we're locked up or not, we're in the mix.
Yeah.
We're in the we in the fold.
Yeah.
Even if you're not the one locked up, we're
You
in
sending
the fold.
money, you answering the phone, you picking people up, you
You on that bus every weekend, going to see your boyfriend, the cousin.
Yeah.
Or even just, I don't know, like a call to action that made you feel like if no one else is going to get it done, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
Like these prisoners are dealing with bad COVID situations in the midst of everything. Let me go do something instead of waiting around for someone else to figure it out.
Speaking of COVID, so they let a lot of prisoners out. Remember that? So did they go back to get them? Or they just free?
I think they're free.
I think they just
I think they chose people whose crimes they thought might not be a threat to society so much.
So you
They
see
weren't
what
just
I'm
letting
saying?
out murderers. They
Right,
weren't
but
just
my
letting
point
out.
is those people probably shouldn't have even been in there in the first place. You see what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah.
Now it ain't that bad. So that's what I was saying with the prisoners. Can we not just go by the books and look at every individual case? Okay, your mama hungry, you stole from Big Bear. Can we get you a job that you maintain and you better keep the job for 50 days to feed your mama?
But it's a slippery slope
It's a-
because let's say they did go in for some minor-ish crime like that. But then something happened inside the prison walls, whether that was from one of the wardens, because they always talk about, especially in the women's prison, how they are taken advantage of because of the situation they're in and because they're women and they're already locked up. So let's say she goes and she takes a shank and does it in to one of the correction officers. Well, now her sentence has like changed significantly, you know, and that's changed the story. It's like, do we still offer those same kind of resources or, I guess, empathy and grace and humanity to them, or do we just cast them aside?
Yeah, I remember the statistic he said, which was very interesting, that cops are more likely to be domestic violence.
Oh, yeah.
But he said that, but if you're a domestic violence person who's not a cop, they consider that with guns. But when you're a police officer and violence, you automatically get a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff he
Whose
brought
story
out.
was that? Was that Penny Post? Whose story?
It was somebody's
Somebody's story was related to the story about how
I think it was Penny Post.
And then said, one of the cops, he said somebody I was going
his
to
dad
wife
was
would be
whatever it
quiet.
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
mama need to be quiet.
In fact, it was because it was a white man's voice that was reading that part, but that wasn't Simon J. Kraft on that part, but it was, yeah.
That's interesting to me. That's stuff you don't know. I'm just saying.
I mean, but yeah, that's what people talk about. You know, like there are so many people that are being affected by these systems. You know, police, they abuse their families and their wives, and like I know a girl I went to college with undergrad with, she got killed by a off-duty cop that she dated, and it's like what? Like to think that somebody had the right to just end your war, to end your life, but that's what happens though. Abuse breeds more abuse, and violence breeds more violence. Like they know when you locked up, you're gonna have fights and you're gonna be into a whole lot of shit. And they know that. Well, unfortunately, police officers suffer too. You know, they kill themselves at a higher rate and they abuse their partners, and it's just a lot of like friction happening. It's not just like prisoners that are being affected. Like everybody's being affected by this system, and it's so crazy that it's beautiful the way he put the book together, but it's crazy the way people don't think about it. You know, and they separate.
And I was thinking with cops, I think it was Will Smith said that he rode in the car with a cop for a whole day and he just wanted to know what it was like. And he was like, damn, like a lot of them got abused all freaking day. Like the cops cussed out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like crazy. So then I'm thinking about what do you do with that stress?
Yeah.
Now you're coming home, you're beating your wife, and then the first person that step off the sidewalk, wrong,
Yeah.
bam. You see what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
that's a crazy system.
Yeah.
So the people talking about abolish the police, yeah, that's a pushback from that. But you know what? If we did have more social services on the street,
It's a system.
you know what I'm saying? Instead of calling the cops, you call the social worker who's coming in.
Because that's what you need
And
anyway.
the social worker will need her
you
therapist
need
to
mental
help her
assistance.
because it's a lot to do. But I'm thinking,
There's a city that actually implemented it. I can't remember where it is.
Yeah, a couple of them are. Like
Evanston, Illinois, maybe. I think is one city
I
that
think
has.
Michigan doing something like that too.
There's a couple places that have instituted that.
Mm-hmm.
The first responders, the police call they call a social service first before they are allowed to make an arrest of some sort. But they have to have an intervention.
but you need so many
Evanston was
people doing
operation
that work.
first city.
Yeah, you do.
Because you just need a lot of people doing the work. Like I was at the National Mall last Friday when they had the International Festival. So we were doing this, but you could write a heart with a little gift, and write a note. So this little 8-year-old girl comes up and she wanted to do one. I don't know where her mom is. I'm like, okay, go get the pen. I'm gonna help you. So we write, what you want to write? She want, I love you, mommy. Okay, cool. You get the pen, write an I. What's an I? She had no concepts of letters. 8 years old. I said, so what's going on? You go to school? When people started getting sick and coughing, my mama took me, I don't go to school. So I'm like, have you ever been to school? She said one time. She's 8 years old, right? So it goes back to this point, what do we do with these systems? Like this kid is missing. Now they says millions of kids missing since COVID. That's a missing kid.
Yeah.
Her school probably went to her house and tried to account for her. They didn't move probably. She's not accounted for. She's not reading and writing. What do we do? Like what do you do? She had no concept. I'm like, why the I? She's like, what's the I? What's that? And then my friend said CPS. She knew that word. She did. You know what I mean? Her face was
I'm
like,
sorry.
but it was shocking to me because when he said it, she looked hard. He was thinking she don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But she looked heartbroken, like, you see what I'm saying? So it's that whole system of.
It's a bigger conversation about what we do and where we fuel our money.
And where
right,
we're feeling our
and
money.
where we're fueling our, like you said, resources, right? Because what was it? Who had the statistic? Maybe it was New York, where their like police system got all this money. It was like $300 million, and like y'all had enough money for that, but couldn't. I don't know, student loan forgiveness, like all of these other things that we really need.
Atlanta, Cop City, people really like protesting against them making this.
But instead, y'all gave them money so they could buy better cop cars. You could have more of them on the force, like.
Yeah,
really
and I'm not,
confident.
it's just a messed up system. But what do you do? When you were saying about the police calling social workers in first. So if our country went to that, we're gonna need so many more social workers.
Yeah.
Like they would be overwhelmed. So the whole point, like that little girl who's missing, I guarantee you, her social worker, if there's a social worker, probably got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
She missing now.
Yeah.
Like she's just missing. So we're gonna have a lot more people go into social services and get them loans forgiven. Maybe that's a way to get them in there in order for us to have that type of wraparound service we need. Because somebody lost this little girl and millions of others that we ain't gonna get back. I ain't gonna say we're not gonna get back, but she might not come back. Because at the point I'm thinking, dang, I should have been calling 911 on the spot. Like I wish I had somebody I could have called on the spot. Who? Because she don't know her letters at 8 years old, had never been in school. You see what I'm saying? And her mom, if her mom was homeschooling her, she know how to read and write. I'm good with that. But she's out being homeschooled, but you don't know what an I is.
I wonder, is the book like one of the biggest themes in the book? How easily we forget about people.
Yeah.
Because even like at the end, when all that happened, there's like, oh, we gotta forget so we can think about killing each other. Like maybe that's like the biggest message: how we forget about people, how we're forgetting about people now. Like,
even right now, when they said a
forget
million
about.
kids missing, even kids from college, they never went back to
Yeah.
college. Whatever. It's articles being about these missing people.
Yeah.
How many people have forgot about it? We ain't writing about it.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it. These kids out here, they're missing.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody even writing about it no more. That was a big deal in the beginning. Now it's no. I know so many schools now that enrollments are low, really low.
Yeah.
That they need to close them. And you're like, what are kids?
Yeah. And they closed the schools because
They
they
closed
said
the
enrollment
schools.
low.
They said the school right around the corner in DC is like, where is it? Like near that St. Elizabeth, that area, that like the enrollment is low, but they're afraid if they close that school, it's too far from them to go, and the parents might, it's an issue with them even getting to school. So they're trying to keep the school open, but ain't no, what the kids? What? You said they missing.
Yeah.
I hear you. I'm a little. I mean, I don't know. The libertarian in me says you gotta. It's that person's choice, right? Like
it is their choice. The thing about this, like this kid, when I saw her desire was to write. The kids over there, they write, and she want to get in the mix. She can't get in the mix. That ain't even her fault.
I'm not disputing that, but at some point, like again, it's what balance do you strike with my child, my decision, right? Like at some point, like is it really our business to be calling CPS on this person when, yes, she's being neglected intellectually, she's not being taught the way she should be being taught, but if she's not being physically abused, if she's not being starved, like how, because that is a slippery slope as well, right? Because now when I sit here and say, hey, well, you know, my child can choose their own identity. Because you don't believe in it, you need to stay the hell away from me. I don't care what the hell you think. Right? So I don't know.
It's a slippery slope.
Right. So it is. I don't know how you necessarily answer that. But
because even if I called CPS and they showed up, like I wouldn't want the mama to go to jail or the child to be taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, because
I would like to say,
that's
you
the
want
first
her
thing that I thought about actually.
And I want her. I would just hopefully the person, and that's what I'm saying. You're talking about calling social services in for these situations. They're gonna do something you don't want.
Also,
like now, I would like you just ask the mother, what is the problem? Like, do you need us to send somebody to your house to help you?
But here's the thing: to be
is
fair,
your home insecurity?
I own an 8-year-old. I own a 7-year-old. They say things. There are not.
I want to say that part.
But they do. Like, there are not full stories being presented sometimes, and we make decisions based on limited information because of the alarm that we hear.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you make that call because of your own belief of what is wrong, but you really have no clue. This is a limited 5-minute interaction that you have, and you're making a decision that there is something amiss, and maybe there's nothing amiss, but a person whose job is to discover the things that are amiss finds something amiss, and then it upends everything else because this kid told you they didn't know what an I was, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, because I can see one of my kids jokingly saying that. To be honest with you, like I'm not saying that she wasn't being honest. I'm just saying.
But what if we didn't operate as a country from a punitive perspective? What if someone came in to try to figure out, and the mother has a good explanation why her child can't read, blah 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 blah, and we accept that. We did an investigation.
I guess it's
you
just
don't
why
want
does
to
she have to
remember
answer that question to begin with? You know, like why does she owe anybody else? Why does she owe you that answer? Why does she owe the social worker that answer? I'm with you. I would hate for this child not to have every opportunity afforded them to be successful or whatever in life. But why, like, who gets to decide that this mother owes the rest of us an answer?
Right.
That reminds me of like in King Richard, right? The whole scene with CPS. Have you guys seen King
Yeah.
Richard?
Mhm.
Right. That's a perfect example, right? They technically weren't abusing her. They just knew what her father knew, that they had to work hard, and he was like, rain or shine, you know, we out there. And the lady across the street, she was black. She called CPS on them, and they have what seemed to be a beautiful family together in this fictional tale. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like, you know, they had them in cages, the alarmist stuff that you definitely need to call CPS.
Sometimes you're
That's-
right,
that-
but
yeah.
you could be wrong.
The stuff they need to be worried about, they have no freaking care about.
None.
But because I got my kid playing tennis in the rain, there's kids in cages.
Quite literally.
I mean,
Oh
that's
my
the thing.
God.
It's like, you might be completely right that there's something wrong. But you could be completely wrong that there's something wrong.
But I'm saying, but
Well, we know
And
that
it's
there are
like-
people being forgotten about though.
No,
Yeah.
we do,
So-
but it's also, this child wasn't at this place by themselves either. This kid not forgotten by the parent.
Kind
Well,
of was.
did you ever see the kid with their parent?
The mama.
You think this kid came to
I
a
was the person I'm
festival
with.
by
I'm
herself?
like, you know, I'm all, you know, I'm trying to get him. Like, 'cause I'm all on the side. Where is the mama? So yeah. So the mama way down there ain't. He's from his perspective. Ain't looking.
Kids do escape.
Yeah, kids.
I mean, so the mama wasn't looking around like.
But
he said she
also,
was doing her
you
thing.
know your kids because you know what? I got 4.
But you're too
I
far
got-
away. And
I got one
could've
kid
gone.
that I could not afford to live out of my sight.
Right.
I got one who is always gonna have me in sight. Who, no matter how far away, this kid is always gonna. I know where my parents are. They're two completely different, and they're only a year apart. But one of them, breakout, won't turn around. The other one, when I drop him off in the morning, will not walk in the school building unless he gets to wave bye to me. The other one doesn't turn around at all. One is watching me as he walks in the building. Right? He's like, I see where
Where's
you
my
are.
anchor at?
Yeah, I see where you are walking in the building. The other one could not care less. So what I'm saying is, and again, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. I mean, you're like
I
the
guess you
parent.
can do a
You're like
value
the
from your
parent.
own,
Yes,
I'm
that's
like-
what I'm going. You're
Yeah.
saying the parent is too far away from this
It's a
kid
judgment,
to be
yeah.
to be doing what they're supposed to be doing as a parent, and you don't know if that parent that's just knows their kid.
And the kid know how far to go. And
The
come
kid
back.
also has an idea of, listen, I know where my mama is. She's right there. Like, I see my mama. She's just fine. Like,
Yeah.
she's going to do
Yeah.
that thing
Yeah.
over there. And my mama just told me what she was about to go do. She said, you don't leave from right here because
Yeah.
I'm going to be right back. So, hello, lady.
That's right. Some
So,
letters.
yeah, kid, I would like to send a letter to my mama.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say, and I don't know. No, I don't know what an I is. Like that is.
No. But in this case, without I'm quiz. I'm like, so do it, M, and then she was like, I'm just
So
like,
that, I mean,
dude,
and to me, that does seem like a problem. I admit, I'm with you. That seems like a problem, but what is
I'm just
the
saying,
problem? Like,
right.
what are the
what I'm
problems
saying
that
is
you
that
need
like,
to be?
I think going back to the
addressing?
book, we were talking about the idea that a society. What can we do besides prisons, right? To help people. People need help, right? So then, even when you talk about the help, you're talking about the judgment. Like to me, for a child, and especially if you in education, about 9. If you hadn't corrected a lot of issues, then it's almost impossible for you. Not impossible, but like this girl, she's in a window where she doesn't learn how to read. She gonna and she right at it. She's gonna miss it. So knowing that, you're like, I ain't saying mama bad, but you got a small window that you're working with before it's gonna be real hard to learn how to read. And then I'm thinking about when they said it. I think I was at Buffalo and Poor that had Angela Davis there. They were like, in Ward 8, it's a huge percentage of people who cannot read. I can't remember what the number is, but it's real high, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, look at
This
the
could be a
impact down the
Yeah.
road for this. When this kid right now can go and get some intervention, and mama might just be like, listen, we got homeless security.
Yeah.
We moving around a lot. We don't have no food. We talk about our country. Where is the help for this mother? If that's what she's saying.
There is the systems. So I mean, I'm not a fan of this conversation because one, it's more reflective of like my cynicism, and I don't believe in I don't even know how to say it without sounding like
Just say it.
work. I don't believe in people, right? We just they've had an issue with passing a budget, right?
To the federal government.
Federal government. They don't want to cut the tax breaks that Trump instilled, right? So that these billionaires and millionaires can keep more money. They want to stabilize the budget on the backs of everyone else. So on the SNAP programs, on social services, on education, that's where they want to find the money at to try to balance the budget. Not over here. They're not talking about the taxes. They're talking about these loopholes that these gas companies get, that these these companies that have these PPP loans that did not need the money, right? They're not going back after that stuff.
Checks and balances on that.
Right. But they're going to try to the stuff that we need. So that's the thing, like the systems, the stuff you're talking about, is where they're cutting more and more of the funding from. So we talk about these things that. So I believe I can remember I had this conversation with someone a long time ago, and it just really got stuck to me that he made the point. He was like, basically, you can't lead a horse to water, right? If the person doesn't want it, I can do my best to be here to provide support, to talk to you more than a few times of why it's important, right? And I believe the same thing for my kid, right? But if you decide not to go in this direction, at some point you have to suffer the consequences. That's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. Like if this is the choice that you make for yourself, like it's going to drive me crazy. I can't then take care of the rest of my family. Right. The people who are trying to listen, the people who want the help. If I'm running behind you trying to get you.
I mean, well, my question for that would be.
That's hard, Eric.
It is.
So
that's
my question is.
You got that 1% showing out. Do you let them run wild?
So you find. So let me just. So I agree with you. It is a very. I understand. It's a very like cold-blooded and I'm a person who it's easy for me to like once you show me who you are to like okay, I gotta drop it, right? I do believe that there needs to be other opportunities, but the bulk of the focus can't be on you, right? If we have 80% of the people who are trying to put themselves in a better position, we have to spend the bulk of our time with those 80%, with that 80%, so that they are supported. If you're deciding to walk away and not put in the effort, why am I going to keep throwing resources and time after you until you mature and get to the point where, you know what, let me get my life together.
So you do believe in prisons?
No, I believe in prisons for like the people,
like
I said, the people who choose for the gunnies.
So you said 80% of the people, we're going to focus on them. So that's like the world, like all of us are doing good, we good, but the people in prison, we ain't going to worry about them.
If you are choosing to create havoc or just not to care, there's nothing you can do or say to help that person.
I feel like that question is a fair question. But then when you ask questions like that, if you start to see a trend and there are certain demographics that are in this system getting caught up more than other demographics, I think that calls you to ask a different question and say, well, why is it disproportionately impacting this demographic?
Right, but
now, if it was like everybody equal, everybody all in it, some people, some of that, cool. But because there are certain groups that are experiencing it or having more difficulty with it in particular, then that caused me to answer another question and say, wow, is something happening to this group? Is this group having a different experience? What is the history of this group?
Right. So
then it caused me to be like, okay, well, not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing: is I don't believe in one size fit all. I do not believe in one size fit all. I believe that you have to almost custom tailor your situation for every kid or for every person. From the same mom and the same daddy, 1 year apart, they're gonna be completely different people.
Yes.
I need to tend to these two kids
Yeah.
who are running buddies. Like I could just see them in the house, like power twin. What is it? The unite. Like they just Wonder Twins, right?
Yeah.
Activate.
Yeah.
But you have to deal with them the way you discipline, the way you educate, the way you console, right? The way you encourage a person is going to be different for every person. I completely believe in you have a custom take you, so you have to put forth the effort. But after 10, 15, 20, 30 times, if you show me who you are, you got to believe it. And if a person gets to the point where I'm not committed to this, right? I've tried to find things that got you interested. I try to find your passion. I try to talk to you. I try to introduce you to other things, get you out of the city, get you to a
But
new.
who got all them chances though?
Well, that's what I'm so
Yeah.
to me it's, but again, you can't get there when the bulk of your budget is based on military and tax cuts and all these other things,
Yeah.
right? If we really want to address it,
Yeah.
we have a system that is focused on actually helping people. We focus on not the tax cuts for the rich. We say, hey, you know what? There's small businesses that employ most of the people, support them so they can pay people more money. And if I'm paying my team more money, guess what they're going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to the movies more.
Yeah.
They're paying their bills on time. And guess what? That means you're supporting those businesses.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're focused on. We're making sure it's the investments, the venture funds, like all that stuff is where we focus at.
Private prisons.
Right, private prisons.
Yeah.
So
Well, I talked about
it's
this.
the way that the system is not like it's two or three fold. Like you're balancing a number of things at one time. But it's hard for me to listen to the conversation because ultimately, for me, like I've run this through my head so many times. For me, like there is a solution, but where the solution can actually be affected change, there's not enough of a critical mass to really. The first thing you do is you put term limits in.
Yeah.
You limit how much people can get for campaign finance reform, right? You do those things. They don't care. They turn corporations into people. So it's just a very frustrating thing because the answers aren't necessarily easy, but they're workable. Like if there's enough people that's willing to work at it,
See,
it's very frustrating.
so even to make that more direct and kind of speak to what we're talking to like, I have this discussion with my wife all the time because we live in Southeast, we live by Alabama Avenue, we live by the Giant, right? Every time something happens, this happened recently, I guess. There was all those articles about how they were taking stuff off the shelves in the Giant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was like, "You just the big, I always have the excuse for every time something happens. Like, well, people take things because of the legacy of slavery and all this stuff. Like, I'm all like, and it's funny because even when I'm saying some of this stuff, like, I'm realizing the other half is, but people still just steal it too. Like, it's like, yes, slavery.
But
Absolutely.
Somebody just still.
But
I'm
you know,
with
at
you. I always try to
the
say, they hungry.
end of the
Everybody
day,
hungry.
it's like we have decided these are crimes and you are committing them. And ultimately, whether you believe in the penal system or not like that, like, you don't take other people's stuff. Like, you don't do, you're doing something that's wrong innately. And so when we have these conversations, especially in DC now, where it seems like people getting carjacked left and right by like little kids.
Yes.
But like 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and she be looking at me like, so what's your excuse here? Like, they're kids, you're gonna say that they're just kids. But I'm like, she's like, they're putting my life in danger. They're putting our lives in danger. Like, so is it okay or it's like it's not as big of a deal? And I'm just like, you know what, you're right. Sometimes people just bad. They just doing things and this is the struggle that I have because I do that all the time. Anytime, my first instinct is always to defend, right? It's always to.
But I mean, who defending though? It's just us. Like, ain't a big amount of people defending anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, I be doing the same thing. Like, especially.
No, I write this stuff. I like use my platform to do it, and on occasion, and I get the pushback on that. Sometimes, like, I'll write the big defense of why the system is holding us down, and yes, but it's like. some of us are holding ourselves down with the same system. Like we know the system, and we're choosing to do these things that are. And it's when you're look. If you steal from Giant, I don't care personally. Like I'm assuming you need it, but when you put me in harm's way, when you threaten the life and safety and security of my family and stuff like that, that's a whole different conversation that we're having, right? At that point, I don't have any empathy for you. It's not worth it to me to find out your story because your story is irrelevant in what you decide. You changed my story, right? Like your story doesn't matter because you just changed the trajectory of my story, right? So it's like you get into those kind of like those real like existential conversations and thoughts about, because it's like, again, if you stealing from a store because you hungry, like I'm not even that mad about it. I have options, right? I can go somewhere else. But if you hold me up with a gun to take something that belongs to me, like you literally could have killed me. And now I don't know. I feel like I'm becoming more hardened about that because as I see more and more stuff happen, I'm just like what the hell am I defending? Like what am I doing?
But then my thing is that
at some point you got to stop. You got to be honest.
But as a country, we have to look at what is going on because that Giant, according to the news, that's happening all over the country.
Yeah.
They were saying like Walmart, and I don't feel bad for Walmart, but they've lost millions across the world, country. People stealing like that. People going. They showed another city. People going in just mass. It's happening everywhere in our country. We're gonna have to look at what is going on. I don't know what's going on. They showed you don't see Philly last week.
So
man, they did mass lootings 2 days.
The question is, do we believe
everything?
If everybody has, so I guess the question is, it's one of them questions you can't answer. If everybody has what they need, whatever that is the assumption that all of this stuff would stop? Or is it that the people who continue doing this stuff are the real criminals and those ones we got to get out of here? Like
it would happen way less.
It would happen less.
Way less.
Right.
That's why I think it's a correlation between pandemic and what's going on. I don't know if it's direct, but I think there's something like people suffering. Some of us were able to stay in the game and get in. Some people can't get back in the game. Because to me, when you still in when you go like the Target on New York Avenue, y'all, you have to ask for soap.
Yeah.
It's locked up.
Yeah.
So my point is that people ain't stealing when they went to Philly, they ain't stealing they ain't stealing Gucci purses. You talking about soap and toothpaste.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It ain't Giant. The most expensive thing in there is what? $25 at the most. 20. You see, they're not going to stealing.
big old slabs of steak.
Right, they might be so there must be a market. I'm thinking it has to be a market for this.
I mean, but that is true. I mean, think about all the stuff that is locked up in those. You go to that Target in Forestville, they got some stuff locked up. There's tons of stuff that ain't. Right?
Yeah.
The interestingly, like the detergent is locked up. Like the laundry detergent is locked up. Clothes ain't locked up. Yeah. You can steal the clothes, you just can't wash it. You just gotta get some more, right? It's interesting. Those laundry things are big. Like if you can get that out the store, you can get a couple pairs of pants and
that's
stuff out
interesting
there.
too. But think about it, they're not locking up the pants.
Yeah,
or even now, if you go to the other side of that Target, all the house stuff, they got some nice house stuff in there.
Well, even the $30 records, I'm shoot, them records might say that's $50.
Like
I'm just trying to figure out how to steal that because that's too much money.
None of the toys are locked up.
Right.
Shoot, this like $100 Lego set up in that joint. I love it.
None of the pencils and markers, none of the stuff that is genuinely easy to steal is locked
It's
up.
not.
You want to take a card out of the Target for
The
somebody
lady said
birthday,
you got.
right?
And think about it, they're selling stuff like bath gel. So it must be a market where people, because y'all know, I don't know about y'all, and I ain't that woman. You know, I don't really, when I buy stuff, I just buy what I need. I don't look at prices. But then sometimes I get to the checkout, I'll be like, $50. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just used to buying for myself. Yeah. So normally I go in the store, but now I go and I ain't bought but like 3 days. It's like $50. I'm like, I wish I could get my toothpaste for $1.
Yeah.
Off the black market. I would.
But I'd be willing to bet money.
Well, I know someone if you need it.
With the detergent, there's a huge black market for that stuff, right? So people sell that stuff on the street, right?
Yeah.
They'll steal it right outside Target, go right down to about $5 below. Like, I got this.
And guess who might buy it when it's $25? I might be like, man, go buy that. I'm just saying, I'm not doing it, but I
hear you keep throwing that out there, but we'll talk after that.
I'm just saying, so that's the part of the stuff being locked up. They're not stealing big items. They're stealing toothpaste.
I mean, I think I agree. I mean, it's a big, and that's why I was like, my feeling of this book, like to wind us down and get us to the end is, I don't know. I like the book. It's not I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed and felt for a number of the characters, and I thought he did a great job humanizing them. I think for me personally, the issue is so much larger that it somewhat feels like it feels overwhelming, and I don't necessarily really want to. I don't know how to put energy or emotion to something that I would love to see changed. I don't know what the answer is, right? And we know that it's such a huge profit center for a small section of the population who has so much sway in the political arena that to change it is like you almost have to like re-implement another like worldwide lockdown to get people to act on something, right? So
Civil War.
yeah, so I don't know how so it's for me, I think maybe I've kind of shut myself emotionally to the book. So it's been hard for me to kind of really say how I process and like really kind of give an emotional take on it, because like ultimately, like what he's talking about is like it's a great, like all these different thought exercises. Like I would love to see if you implemented some of those things, because I think it's so much there.
It's heavy because there ain't no answers, and I can't see the train. I can't see the train that we're on with prison system stopping.
Yeah,
I don't see that stopping.
Yeah.
So it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
It's a heavy book.
It's interesting when you read
answer
about
for it.
people who are doing this type of organizing and who commit their lives to it. Like we got books in here, you know what I'm saying? And it's really interesting to like learn about their journeys and like the way you just gotta have one task at a time, you know, and we get these little things out. We support people, we write letters, you know, everybody comes together, we write letters, or, you know, little ways to like support each other that's not even monetary.
Yeah, it would be interesting if we had, there's actual
People
more
be doing
institutions.
They doing the work. And when that guy
Connected.
came and Sun Does Shine in DC, he was at New York. I haven't talked about that. There was a whole bunch of people that's what they're committed to this prison reform. They doing the work, and I'm just thinking it's just people who, you know, hopeful. But you got to have a lot of hope to be doing that work when I don't see it ever ending. But I, you know, in the way that we know it, I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great choice. I'm glad I had a chance to read him.
Me too. I love
I definitely want to get back to read the first book that he wrote.
it. Which one, Friday Black?
Yeah,
Oh, it's good.
I think I would love to see, if the publishers are watching, I would love to see them turn it into with a bunch of short stories or novellas, like continue to like tell these stories. Because I think, having what now happens to Thurwar. I don't think there's anything else that she can do other than like she's maybe 6 more months around. I don't know how she survives. Like there's a breakdown. There's
something.
does she recommit? Does she what's the word when you commit another crime?
To go back.
Yeah, and go back, because how do you like? That's why Sunset and Melancholia did what they did, because like how do I exist? Like I said, I killed 34 people or whatever it was.
Right.
How do I now exist with people?
You gonna tell me I'm free?
Yeah, like
Or tell me to tell myself I love myself.
yeah, like
I'm
it's
a whole different person.
yeah. So I don't know. So I mean, I think it was a really good book.
I'll give it a 10.
Yeah, you give it a 10.
I do.
With any other ratings that we give?
I feel biased because I like is this fantasy? I like dystopian origin stories, I
Mhm.
guess you could say. And I really like the way that he told this one. So I like to give it a 9.5. I'm really like a full 10 person. But I would really love to see either like a continuation, like we were talking about, maybe not as thick, but in novella form, and or see it brought to film. Just maybe not with Spike Lee.
I don't want them to do this because I think you need those footnotes.
But
Like,
yeah,
you
that's
got
what I'm saying.
you got to have those footnotes really.
You
They
can do
resonate.
footnotes.
I don't know
You
about nobody
can
else. They
do footnotes in
resonate.
film.
Taylor made
You
Spike
can
Lee.
do footnotes in film if you're very strategic.
If you're Spike
very
Lee.
careful
Spike
about
Lee
it.
have-
Spike
you
Lee
know,
was
it's
Spike Lee,
basically written for
But
him.
we was had
He's
his
gotta direct it. He don't even gotta write it. It's basically all there for him. He's gotta.
That's good.
shoot it.
Oh man, I love to see what's his name. What's the guy who's been on stuff that like an Hispanic guy? What's stuff not?
John Carlo. Right?
Yes,
John
yeah.
Carlo is
That's funny though.
Yeah. I think he would be fantastic in this. All right, what's your rating?
I'll say 8 out of 10.
You know, that's,
Yeah.
do we want to ask?
I
Come on,
have,
Professor P.
I have enough issues with. I mean, I think it's a 7 at least, but I have
That's not bad.
enough issues that I don't know. Like when I tell people to read it, I mean, it was entertaining enough. Like I would never say it's not an entertaining read or that it didn't have it. It's just that I just thought there was perhaps a little bit too much going on in some places, and then not enough where I needed it to be more.
Is this writer Panama saying this, or is this like reader Panama? Because they're two different people.
No, I mean, reader. I finished it. That says something. I wanted to know how it ended. The writer in me. I mean, look, I don't have a book, so I don't know how hard it would be to cut out pieces of my baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, or people edited and they read it and they thought they read it. They read it and they thought that all that stuff fit. To me, I found things that I could live without, that I don't think added to the story, that I think it was all there. But if you're gonna put all this stuff in there, then you got to do more with some of it. Like I just really don't think we needed I don't think we needed every little bit of the entire system. Though I understand why it's there. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't do everything with the system that you're presenting, you leave a lot on the table. And somebody like me is trying to figure out when that part is concluded, like the death of Singer and like I'm just like, it can't end here. You gave me way too much of Singer's story and Simon J. Crafter, which was only important because the influencer thing that the black woman created that the company stole that put her in prison because she tried to burn all the stuff down who met Staxxx. Like it's
But you
like
just
all
said
that
it's the
stuff was
cleverness of the book.
Yeah.
No,
It is.
I know
Those
the
are
writing,
great. Yeah.
the
The bridge.
that's the
no
cleverness.
bridge. So
Because
that
this
story
this
was
story is
important.
still irrelevant in the way he would bring on the depth.
That's just like
clever.
real life where
He's
all
a very high
six
level
degrees
thinker. I read
separation.
I'm like, this is a brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, again, I think it's useful to have his story in that sense. I don't think it was necessary to have them like their paths colliding as they were presented as a collision of these two sets of unkillable type people, because it don't even sound like it was that much of a match. Like Thurwar and Staxxx was like, it's business.
Well,
Like it didn't even seem like it. I guess they broke a sweat, but it didn't feel like it was.
They definitely broke
is
it.
that how
No.
boxing feels with like the bigger matches? I don't watch a lot of those bigger matches, but to me, sometimes it feels like they have fights where it was like, oh, it was only 5 minutes because so and so got knocked out. In the
No,
first
yeah,
minute.
I mean, and I'm more talking about the path to them getting there. Like we got a lot of the link, the Aham link, right? And the same one, we find out why there's only 2 people.
Right.
So why there are these 2 mystery people? Like we understood because of the case because of whatever and the influencing, they couldn't add people. It just didn't seem that necessary to the story. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like I needed that. It was just the match before her final match. You know what I'm saying? I didn't need to understand the nuances of the other people. For me, and I'm saying this for me, I recognize that perhaps other people got a lot out of that. For me, it was almost too much attention paid, too much detail on that part, when you could have used them 50 pages to explain to me what happened after Thurwar killed Staxxx, because that's what I really cared about. I didn't care about the other stuff.
That's interesting. So you're saying 7 at least.
Yeah, I mean 7.5. I mean, it's not a bad book. Like I wouldn't want to do that to the black man who wrote a book that lots of people love and it's thought provoking. We got a 2-hour convo out that spanned all over the place. So it achieved this goal of being thought provoking and providing like a launch pad for lots of different conversations. To that end, it's got to be at least an 8.
Yeah.
I think I'm a 8 to 9 as well. Only because I enjoyed S.A. Cosby books a lot more. So I think there has to be some type of distance between.
See, I think this is more. So I think this was more cinematic though. I think this was even more cinematic.
That's it.
Yeah, we got together. I saw him in Brooklyn last week. That dude bad. And I just love his look and then the way he talks. It don't go together really. So that makes him
more intriguing.
Yeah. Because he was on that stage like killing it. And I was like,
We'll see.
Yeah.
I guess
So
we need to see more of his type in spaces like this.
So yeah.
So small country town. You know what I mean? He needs to be.
So S.A. Cosby.
He bad. I love his writing.
So yeah. So I think definitely. I don't know if I would put it as one of my books of the year, but I think it's definitely a good read. Right. I think it's definitely
It's on one of my tops.
Yeah. So that was a great pick. Thank you, Panama, for selecting. I don't know if you really wanted to thank for it, but so we are in October. We are in October, right? Yes.
Yes.
So October, and I'm super excited that Tanner Reeve has a new book out.
Oh, that's my boo-boo. I love her.
Yeah.
Never heard of this woman.
When
I was looking for this book the other day, I was looking at
Please go and read her. That's a
never.
trilogy, y'all, with the Living Blood.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge that's on me. I'm fine with that.
I'm saying the Living Blood. That's serious.
I'm glad that reaction.
She is a leading black name in Black horror, so.
And she can write her butt off.
Okay.
So pick this book. So she wrote one of my all-time favorite books. I think it's definitely top 10. I don't know if it's top 5. I think I had a top 5 at one point. The Between.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely love that book. I wouldn't necessarily call it horror, but definitely thriller, suspense. So yeah, the way she does, like she operates in that sci-fi arena is fantastic. And she uses, as like a lot of good black sci-fi fantasy writers do, is they use the genre to talk about, which what he's doing here as well, to talk about issues, systemic issues, societal issues, and put those as the monsters or villains that we're confronting. So this is a book of short stories, that she's written, that is, again, one of, if I recall, like one of the first books she has been published in quite a long time by her. So I'm super excited because she's just been one of my favorite writers that I've been really into for a very long time. So I'm excited for this. So this is the book that we're going to read for the month of October. We will discuss it the first Friday in November back here.
Time moving.
Time moving. Yeah. Back here at Anacostia. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I do want to say, because I don't want no one telling me that they didn't know. So whoever's watching, everyone's here. We do have a special event happening next Friday. If you want to be there, I would say go ahead and get your ticket now.
Yes, please get your ticket now because there's limited spots.
It's going to be at National Harbor. We have LL Cool J coming in to sign his hip hop picture book that just is coming out, I think, next week.
Ladies, don't be getting all cute and all that. Don't do it.
Listen, this is a meet and greet format. All the information is on the Eventbrite. You can't get in unless you use that Eventbrite. So please don't come to us that day. Ask me why.
Talking about where he at.
Right.
Thank you all for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. Remember, Black Books Matter, and please be safe.
All right. That was good, y'all. I got to go home read these